Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the FCC Professional Committee, I want to welcome you. My name is Cami Yu. I'm one of the journalist governors here at the FCC. Today we have a very special day. I wanted to especially thank Dr. Claudia, the CG of the Austrian Council General. You have done some tremendous things in this past week. I note that they had the National Day celebration. And yesterday here at the FCC, we also had an Austrian wine dinner. It was one of our first. Today we have a talk by Mayor Vassilakou. She's currently the Deputy Mayor of Vienna and Deputy Governor for the Federal State of Vienna. As Hong Kong is approaching some changing times, Maria is going to offer a different perspective as to how our city can achieve something different, something a bit more modern, something a bit more aspirational. I do want to thank Dr. Claudia for inviting Maria to Hong Kong. She mentioned that, it wasn't an original stop, but that you invited her as well as, sort of organizing our wine dinner. I can see some tremendous things coming from your council during your stay here in Hong Kong. So we're looking for some more interesting things coming from Austria. I hear that through the efforts of your council, we'll be enjoying some very interesting, maybe design-related things, food and wine-related things, some talks and some ideas about how Hong Kong can become a smarter city. Thank you. With Maria, she is going to talk to us today about the smart city, sustainable solutions from Vienna. She is responsible currently for urban planning and transport, climate protection, energy, and public participation within the city. We've been having interesting dialogue about, where, our city can go. And apparently there's some lessons that can be learned from Vienna and our European cities. I hope that you have enjoyed your lunch. Today's lunch was obviously planned by our wonderful chef, George, who always astounds me with the way that he's able to pair our lunch and food with amazing wines that have been provided by Schmidt's Marketing. And today's lunch is special because the wines that you're drinking right now is from Austria. Dr. Claudia has made that happen. Please do enjoy the white and the red, which is very, very different for us. We usually don't have themed wines, but today we have. So enjoy this and enjoy Maria's talk. We'll have a Q&A session later.
So, dear ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to thank you for inviting me here today and giving me the opportunity to talk to you, to present the Vienna case, let's put it this way. And of course, thanks for coming to listen to me. Now, what I will do in the next 20 to 25 minutes approximately is, first of all, present to you a very brief overview of Vienna as it is today, where we stand, what challenges do we face. Then I will present a brief overview of the Smart City Vienna framework strategy and also a little bit about the process, how it was designed. I have also brought a few showcase projects for you that will show concrete applications of what we actually mean. And then, of course, there's going to be a conclusion, as always. So first of all, I would like to start with something very general, actually. Well, this is actually one of my main, let's say, sentences or thesis when it comes to politics. I think that when we're talking about cities, first of all, we should ask ourselves, what is actually a good city? Now, a good city for me is a city where people live, not because they have to, but because they want to. What do I mean by this? I mean that a good city has to provide us with quality of everyday life. That means that we would like to have our children and raise our children in this city. Why? Because a city that's good to children is good for everybody. It's good to every generation. Why is that so? Well, what is it that we all want for our children? We want them to be able to move around freely. We want them to grow up in a secure environment. We want them to have contact to nature, right? We want fresh air for them. We want them to have contact to water, most probably. We want them to have fun. And we want to have a good education system, last but not least. Now, I think that if we provide these qualities within the heart of the city, then we have a good city. And this also results in young people staying in the city, raising up the children in the city, and not buying little houses in the suburbs. Now, I don't know if suburbanization is a problem for Hong Kong, but because Hong Kong is a specific case, given 7 million people in such little space. But in European cities, suburbanization is a big problem. So we have to tackle one issue. We have to give alternatives to people's, let's say, longing for the little house in the suburbs. So if we want to win over the little house in the suburbs, we have to construct a city that is so beautiful within it that people and young couples will stay there. We'll say later on what all this has to do with our smart city strategy. So, in a sense, I believe that a smart city has to provide this quality of life. And if we're talking about smart city strategy, then we should never forget what it's actually, in the end, all about. So, where's Vienna today? Where do we stand, and what challenges do we face? First of all, geographically, Vienna is situated in the center, I would say, in the heart of Europe. That makes us a hub that is very well connected to many European countries and also has a very, very important strategic position when it comes also to connecting and interacting with countries, with Eastern European countries. Second, Vienna is World Heritage. The whole center of Vienna is World Heritage, which means that we have a great deal to do to preserve this World Heritage status, and of course it is of great importance to us in terms of economy, tourism, and so on. Vienna is a brand, I would say a worldwide known brand as a cultural capital. So we are mostly seen to be a traditional city with a high cultural background, the city of music. Let's put it this way. But also, Vienna is an international showcase for environmental protection. So, one USP of Vienna is that we have started preserving high-quality green spaces in terms of natural parks and so on and so forth, many decades ago. Vienna has been, and this is actually one important example that shows what high standards we have right now. For more than 100 years now, Vienna has been enjoying water of the highest quality. It comes from mountain springs, and up to today and into the future, all Viennese people have access to high-quality water, which of course means infrastructure of also very high quality that has to be maintained. Vienna is the fastest growing city in the German-speaking area. We're growing by 30,000 inhabitants per year, which is quite an amount of people. If you come to think of it, we're at 1.7 million right now, and will grow to be 2 million, a 2 million city by the year of 2030, maybe even earlier. So now this means for us, of course, facing challenges that have to do with providing 30,000 new Viennese per year with housing, schooling, well, spaces for work, working spaces, you name it, whatever you need for a new city. And Vienna has 50% green areas. What also somebody, well, let's say not even most people in Vienna themselves know, is that in Vienna we are able to produce 100% of our needs in specific vegetables within the city, within the season Okay, so Vienna produces itself all cucumbers and tomatoes, for instance, that we need within the summer. And about 25% of our needs is done via Viennese production throughout the year. So this is just one figure, but it shows you how different green spaces and agricultural spaces are in Vienna. It's about 50%, as I said, of our overall area, and we want to keep it this way, although we're growing that fast. When it comes to renewable energies, so 10.4% of Vienna's energy consumption is produced by renewable sources nowadays already. And Vienna has also a very good performance when it comes to reducing green gas emissions. Actually, we have managed already to reduce green gas emissions by 21% per capita, as related to the year 1990. So we have already met this goal. We are starting from this and trying to achieve a higher level. What does Vienna look like in terms of mobility? Now, the next one, please. In Vienna, as you can see, right now, we have 40%, almost 40%, public transport when it comes to everyday trips. We have 27% private car use, 6% cycling, 6 to 7% cycling, actually, and 28% walking. All everyday trips are done on foot. Now, this means that we're a highly walkable city, and this is something that I will be talking a little bit about later on as well. Now, we have set very ambitious targets. By the year 2025, as you can see, we want to have 80% of all everyday trips done in an ecological manner. That means either by public transport or on foot or via cycling, and reduce private car use to 20%. Now, this leads me to the smart city framework strategy. And I will start by letting you know that since Vienna has been for the 6th year in a row now, the city with the highest quality of living, so the #1 livable city worldwide, according to the Mercer study. This shows that we have been doing well on many fields up to now. We have been doing well when it comes to urban design. We have been doing well when it comes to in terms of mobility, sustainability, education, public housing. But what we want to achieve, and this is actually the essence of our smart city strategy, is that we want to manage and tackle the current challenges that growth also means to us, while providing all people high quality of everyday life, also as I meant it in the beginning, while being able to cope and manage challenges that are imposed to us through climate change. So, managing to reduce also the consumption of resources to a minimum level, producing high quality of life, producing an affordable city, providing our citizens with an affordable city, and at the same time triggering innovation. So, here you can see what it really is about. As we see it, a smart city is a climate, resource, and energy efficient city, a city that ensures the ecological, economic, and social performance for all citizens, a city with improved competitiveness and sustainability, and also a city that incorporates social aspects and involves citizens. And here is the key goal that we want to achieve with our smart city strategy up to the year 2050. We want, once again, an optimum of quality of living for all citizens by highest possible efficiency, achieved through technical, structural, and social innovations. And to be honest, this last thing is, I think, very important. It's also about technical innovation. It's pretty much about technical innovation, but it is also about structural and also about social innovation. Because I deeply believe that also social innovation is one source for technical innovation in the end, and also financial and economical innovation. So, smart city Vienna means, above all, once again, as I already mentioned, social inclusion. That means that we want to maintain high social cohesion, a very high quality of life for all inhabitants, and we want to become a place where innovation can thrive. The smart city concepts of many cities are primarily right now concerned with technological issues, or they're only about, well, green gas emission reduction. What we do in Vienna is that we follow a more holistic approach, a more comprehensive approach. We say that, once again, you have to combine different indicators and factors with each other. And this is actually what we call the Viennese way. Now, we'll give you a brief overview on the objectives, and these are just some examples for the different objectives of the Smart City Strategy. So, when it comes to resources, one objective is that greenhouse gas emissions in Vienna will drop, must drop, by at least 35% by the year 2030 and by 80% by the year 2050 per capita, as compared to the year 1990. When it comes to innovation, the objective is that Vienna must become an innovation leader concerning research, economy, and education. In terms of quality of living, the overall objective is to maintain and continue to focus on social inclusion. We want to be, by the year of 2050, still the city with the highest quality of living, of everyday life. We want to be the city with the highest satisfaction level of its own citizens. And what we say is we want to be an affordable city, above all. That means we want quality of life for everybody and not just for the few who can afford everything. When it comes to energy, we want to increase energy efficiency and decrease energy consumption per capita by 40% by the year 2050. This is just one goal. And at the same time, another goal is that we want to see to it that by the year 2050, 50% of the overall energy consumption in Vienna originates from renewable energy resources. So these are really ambitious goals. Actually, what you can see here in the picture is the first incinerator. No, it was the second incinerator, Spitalau, which is, it's a waste incinerator, and it is a very good example for me for a smart solution, even at a time when nobody was talking about smart city. Not only because incineration is a smart solution, and we can talk about it if it's a topic of interest to you later on, but also because it was combined with art and is now a landmark for the city. So it is also a smart solution in terms of not only doing the right thing, but also winning citizens and seeing to it that people who will live around or work around this incinerator have something also that is interesting or beautiful to look at. When it comes to public transport, I have mentioned it before, we want to reduce private car use to 15% by the year 2030. Now, this means, of course, not only investment, high investment in public transport, but it also means something, for instance, that we have done 2 years ago. We have turned the annual card for public transport cheaper. Now, this is a smart solution in the end. In Vienna right now, for 365 euros per year, that corresponds to about 3,650 Hong Kong dollar, right? So, for this amount, that means actually €1 per day, $10 per day, you can go anywhere you want with public transport. And this worked. This worked sensationally. We already have, by a population of 1.7 million, more than 600,000 annual card holders. And I think that this shows, and it also helped to change our share of trips, everyday trips, in favor of public transport within 1 year by 2 points. So it took 2 points away from private car use and put them into public transport. So these also are solutions that not only have to do with technical innovation, not only have to do with infrastructure, but only have to do with what I said before, also smart solutions on a different level. Now, when it comes to social housing, what you should know is that already 65% of Viennese population is living in highly affordable, because public or subsidized flats. Now, we want to continue this way, and at the same time, for instance, the provision here is, and this is only one example, that starting from the year 2018 or 2020 at the latest, every new construction or refurbishment or addition has to be done on a zero emission standard. Now, when it comes to infrastructure, the picture is actually showing you the infrastructure that is bringing the water from the springs, from the mountain springs to Vienna, but something that will correspond much better to today's needs is that we have objectives. For instance, when it comes to open government data, we say that a smart city has to promote open government. So, for instance, we have actually done a survey on the solar potential of every roof in Vienna, and we have put this data on the internet for everybody to use. Now, they're being used in order, for instance, also to produce apps. We want to have 100 new apps, for instance, produced in the next years out of this. And maybe one other example is that we want to have free Wi-Fi access in all public spaces and commercial roads, commercial streets within the next 3 years. So this is also one example of what our smart city strategy is about. Now, let's skip this one, because I'm coming now to the concrete examples. One may be, not everything. That was only, yes, next one, please. This is where we stop. No, the one before, please, here. Thank you. Now, as I mentioned before, we are a city that has 50% green areas already. What we now want to do is to connect these areas with each other. That means that being a smart city for us means that you do not only have to have, let's say, access to a green space within 250 to 300 meters from every address. This is where we are right now in Vienna. If you want to increase walkability, for instance, you have to interconnect those spaces with green lanes with each other. So we're creating pedestrian boulevards right now that will connect green spaces to each other, so you can start your journey anywhere and go somewhere else by moving always in a very attractive green space. And remember once again what I was talking about in the beginning, a city that's good to children. So move around freely and enjoy the city. Next one, please. Now, then this picture, and maybe the next one as well, okay? Two pictures that I brought for you because they're examples of lovely public spaces that are open and accessible to everybody and actually illustrate our focus on the qualities of public space. A smart city must focus pretty much on public space, because public spaces that are working well will mean that people will slow down their pace, will choose to go there on foot, will choose to spend time there. And spending time in public space is always also a source of inspiration and thus a source of innovation. It also means, of course, that it raises citizens' awareness about the qualities of their cities, and also means that let's say that participation in the overall city planning and planning the future together gets better. And last but not least, the smart city strategy in Vienna is also about encouraging participatory processes and organizing those. So it could be no other way. The smart city strategy was designed and evolved out of a participatory process itself. We had stakeholders from different parts and sectors of the city. We had city administration and, of course, also politics itself working together on this strategy, so the whole process of developing the strategy lasted longer than a year, and it is, in the end, a product that is not only the product of administration or politics, but a product of different parts of the city as well, also including businesses. Now, I have brought also some showcase projects, and I decided to focus on waste management and also the different solutions that we have to produce energy out of waste, because I think that this is something that makes Vienna unique in Europe. We have started very early, and up to now, we're a city that already has 4 incinerators, but combined, and this is also very, very important, with a waste, a whole campaign and the whole management in terms of reducing waste and also combined with recycling. So if a city decides to go all the way to incineration, then it has to always be combined once again with reducing waste and also recycling. Now, I have brought some figures concretely that might be interesting. Now, in Vienna, we have about 600,000 tons per year of residual and bulky waste that are incinerated, and another 350,000 tons that are recyclables and biogenetic waste. Now, these 600,000 tons that are incinerated will produce heating, district heating, and in the last years we have also started producing district cooling from these plants. And up to now, 30% of all heating is done in Vienna, of all households in Vienna, enjoy district heating that is being produced via incineration. So I think that these are remarkable figures that show that incineration is not only about waste management, it is also about energy production and also about renewable energy production. Now, at the same time, what the city also does is to produce biogas out of organic wastes from big kitchens. This is altogether 22,000 tons of organic waste that goes to our biogas power plant each year, and will then also produce district heating for many thousands of households. And then, of course, we also produce compost in another plant that is produced out of 100,000 tons of organic waste that comes from gardens. Maybe one last thing I wanted to mention is that we also have one. I'm sorry, I'll have to ask because I don't remember the word in English right now. Landfill, thank you. So, Vienna has one landfill site that has started, but we have started putting organic waste in this landfill site by the year 2009. So from the year 2009 onwards, the only thing that goes to this landfill site is the residuals of incineration. We have a detox process, and then after demetallization, the residuals will go to the landfill. But still, since there was organic waste there before the year 2009, we're also producing biogas out of the organic waste that is there for 3,000 households. So what I'm trying to say is that waste management is really, for me, a crucial key when it comes to smart cities and smart city appliances. And it's not only about what do I do with my waste in my city. It's more and rather more than how do I win energy and how do I make the most of it. Now, the second picture is the Rinterzelt. Rinterzelt is an architectonically very interesting also example of the one space where the main recycling job is done in Vienna. Now, we have about 250,000 tons of waste that is being brought to the Zelt, also to this tent, let's put it this way, each year. And here is where recycling, as I said, once again happened. Here is also where demetallization of the residual waste from the incinerators takes place, and afterwards you have a decision where something is going for incineration, or if it's going to the landfill, or if it's going to be used in another way. Now, the next specific example that I have brought has to do with implementing these green grids that I was talking about and connecting green spaces to each other. This is not an example that has to do with technological innovation. It's an example that has to do pretty much with, let's put it this way, social and cultural innovation. This means also reclaiming streets and seeing to it, of course, streets are there for mobility, and of course, streets are there for cars as well. But not each and every street has to be there for cars. And that means reclaiming streets and seeing to it that you put high qualities for pedestrians in a street and connect green spaces and public spaces with each other, as I said once again, and seeing to it that they become places of inspiration. So once again, my main point here is, if you slow down your pace, if you have a nice and attractive place in open space where you can spend lunchtime, and if you get to see, to watch other people, to interact with them, maybe to get to know new people, then it might be that you go back to office with a new idea that will result in a new enterprise. So, smart city is about technological research, about technological innovation, it's about businesses, but it's also about giving people an opportunity to get to know each other and to maybe start up their own business that will be a large business 20 years later. And the last concrete example has to do with a solar power plant founded by the citizens of Vienna. Now, this specific example shows you a solar power plant that was actually put on the roof of a new train station in Vienna. And we're very proud of it because in historical cities in Europe, introducing solar power plants to rooftops is quite an issue. Also because of World Heritage, and it is also an issue because buildings will belong to different people who are not so much in favor. So managing to put a solar power plant on the rooftop of such a station is a showcase project that means also a little bit of pioneer work within European cities. Now, what this is about is that we said that we want to have 10 times more solar power plants within a few years than we had before. And one way to do it was not only by encouraging our city, the company, the electricity company, to do it, which actually is a spin-off of the city itself, 100%. We said we want to engage citizens as well, because smart city solutions is also about participation and citizens' engagement. So we said that if anybody wants to invest in solar power, they can do so. And up to now, we have managed to create 17 solar power plants within 2 years. And people just keep investing, let's put it this way, they keep buying and buying and buying, and new ones are already being planned and created right now. So for me, this is not only about smart technologies, it's also about smart ways to implement them. So my conclusion is that actually a smart city means a few requirements. It means a holistic approach. It means that you have to implement change management. That also means change management within administration. It means strong partnerships, mainly with businesses, but also with other cities. It means citizens' involvement, because you do not only want to implement smart solutions top-down, you want also people, you want to trigger innovation that comes from people themselves as well. It means visible projects, like the few ones that I was able to show today. And it means that cities interconnect and learn from each other. I thank you very much, and I will be glad to answer whatever questions you have.
Maria, you've given us a lot to think about, seriously. We will have Q&A very shortly, but I wanted to thank you on behalf of the FCC. We have a little gift for you, but don't go away, because I think we will continue the dialogue with some Q&A. And I do have a question, and I will start off the dialogue right now.
Thanks.
Again, I want to thank Maria and Dr. Claudia for bringing us this very interesting topic to the FCC. It's actually really refreshing to be able to think about how we, as a city that is sort of emerging, can learn lessons from our European sort of cities about how we can aspire to be better. One of the questions I do have for you, Maria, is that you mentioned that in a smart city, that triggering innovation is part of the outcome of a smart city. I'm hoping that you can elaborate on how that can happen in a city such as Hong Kong. What is the criteria? What is the trigger? How do we do that? And after this, we will take questions from the floor.
Once again. Now, once again, I think that innovation is a result, or let's say, depends on several pillars. One of it has to do with keeping close contact between the cities and businesses that have high innovative potentials, which you can do, for instance, through using administration or city projects for infrastructure that will be combined with research and innovative solutions from businesses, from local businesses. Now, this is a way that we have been following, a path that we have been following in Vienna for the last years. It has pretty much to do, for instance, with public transport infrastructure. It has to do with mobility infrastructure in general. It has pretty much to do with the whole topic of ambient assisted living. Well, we are a society that is getting older and older, and all people want to be able to grow old in their own homes. Okay, this is actually what we all want. Now, this also means technical innovation that can be developed and can be introduced. But then I believe that the role of an active city should be to lead this innovation, to give the lead to this innovation process, because businesses themselves all have research centers, but they need to have clients, let's put it this way. They need somebody to help them identify in which direction are we to go. And they also need a client that will maybe buy the first results, let's put it this way, the babies. So this also may be part of the role that a city can play in this. We also work via calls, okay? But then, one part, as I said, are middle and high-scale businesses that you have. The second part has to do with education and also funding or encouraging research processes and communication between universities and research centers and businesses. The third part for me has to do with everyday life. And I really deeply believe that everyday life is the most exciting innovator ever. But once again, and this was the example we were talking about through lunch, this means that you have to focus on the qualities of public space. Because I will give you just one example. If I said, well, if I arrived today and I was wearing a nice skirt and I would go for a walk, one of you would pass by. By chance, this one of you would be, let's say, a designer, would see the nice skirt and would say, oh, that's a good idea. I will produce this. Or something that is the result of it, because you also have, of course, a creative process going on. You might end up setting up your own business, small business, that might be a larger business, a bigger business, let's say 10 years later, because we were on foot and we have slowed down our pace and we had the possibility and the opportunity to look at each other and get inspired from each other. If I was driving in my car and you were driving in your car, we would have never ever seen the skirt of each other. So, I think that this also demonstrates that innovation has pretty much to do with inspiration and interaction, and it has also to do with small businesses in a city. So, these are just 3 examples of how to do it, and Vienna actually invests in all these parts. We have, as I said once again, calls for small businesses. We focus on public space and we work closely together with companies, also Viennese-based companies, but not only, in terms of producing innovative technical solutions for healthcare, for the elderly, for the care of the elderly, for public transport, you name it.
Is there any questions on the floor? Please.
Thank you. Martin Taylor. Maria, fascinating. And I commend you and Claudia on Vienna's leadership in this. I'm interested to explore the interconnectivity between your government departments that allows this process to move forward at the pace that it clearly has. Who is leading the charge in this? Is there a single government department that says, this is what we're going to do, right, all you other departments, you come and talk with me and we'll get this done? How does it work?
Now, the leading part is within administration, and several departments are part of it. But the lead is in the hands of the highest public servant that we have in Vienna. He's actually, let's say, the vis-a-vis of our mayor in terms of administration. Yes? No, it's not the planning director, it's the Magistratsdirektor. Okay? It's the director of all public servants that will work for Vienna. Now, this is also a smart solution, let's put it this way, because this means that the lead is in the hands of somebody who can actually access every department of the city directly. At the same time, as I said, we have several departments, like my department, for instance, that are highly involved, but in designing specific parts, all parts that have to do with mobility or energy efficiency and the whole energy strategy, the goals, the objectives of the energy strategy are for instance, a result of what my department has been doing. But the Department of Housing, for instance, is crucial as well in terms of developing very concrete objectives there, and so on and so forth. And of course, the Department for Businesses and Financing in Vienna also has a crucial and very leading role there.
Question here. And then you.
This is Dominic Yin. So Maria, I just heard you mentioning about 600,000 tons of the waste to get into incinerator. And then you mentioned about district cooling.
About?
District cooling. You mentioned also about district cooling. I was in Barcelona. I've seen their incineration plant, and they use the waste air for district cooling in that area. I wonder whether you are doing the same. Over there, I was invited to visit because they are using the Chinese technology for district cooling. Not only for district cooling, only for air conditioning. Use the waste air from the incinerator. So I wonder what kind of district cooling system you are using, because you know that Hong Kong, we have a problem. We have a problem even to build an incinerator. So I would like to make a proposal to the government with the incinerator that I have already got many information. But I wonder, how you do it, connected with district cooling and district heating, how you do it, so that we can learn, not only for Hong Kong, but also for China. If we can get rid of the 2 million small boilers in Beijing and northern area, that would clean the air. Otherwise, nobody want to go to Beijing, and even airplane don't want to touch that. Thank you.
Okay. Now, that's quite a tough question for me, because I'm not so much into technologies in this. But as far as I know, we are using the air, but we're also using water. And what we're also doing is that we're producing also electricity out of incineration, also for many Viennese households. I was wondering if you could tell a little bit more, or if I would have to send it to you. But it's mainly by using the air as well. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I would also like to congratulate you on your speech. It was very impressive. And I'm a Viennese, but I live in Hong Kong since 25 years, so I'm a little bit here and a little bit there. And what I see working in Vienna is waste management and incinerators. We have 4 now. And what I see in Hong Kong is the same issue not working. Lousy air, it's waste incinerators are discussed here since 20 years and we are going nowhere. And I would like to ask you as a politician, how did you do it in Vienna and why so difficult here? It's not a question of technology, it's proven, it's there. But if you read South China Morning Post, every other day there are people against waste incineration. This really hurts me.
Right. Now, I will answer you in a second. I was thinking about your question because now what we are doing in Vienna is a process that I have tried to translate it in English, and as far as I know, it's called cogeneration. So you take the heat that is produced through incineration, and you use it in order to produce electricity, and at the same time, you also use the same heat in order to produce district heating. The only thing that using
the waste air.
Yes, but are they using? They're using the air that would come outside, that would otherwise go to the air. No, we're not using this. Okay, we have filters, but we're not using this. We're using the heat that is produced via the burning process, right, the incineration process, and thus we also produce, as I said once again, electricity as well, but also district heating, which now means, though, that I have actually never asked myself what is it that is within the pipes, so this is something that I will have to write to you. That was a good question. Anyway, to return to your question now. I think that what you really have to do is to be transparent from the very beginning on what you are planning and what it will bring to the city. And in a sense, you also have to listen to whatever people say that they fear, and you have to offer answers that are credible, though. You cannot solve every problem, because every solution has its advantages and it always has its disadvantages as well. But as I said once again, you have to be very honest about what this means, and you have to be very credible about whatever solutions you produce in order to at least tackle some of the disadvantages. What we have found out is that letting people know on a very early stage will be very crucial to having public acceptance afterwards. If you plan something and they found out in the last minute, intransparency always means, of course, that people will be left alone with all of their fears, and it also means that people will start fearing the worst, right? Whereas if you create a transparent decision-making process from the very beginning, this will not solve all problems. And I guess you also have in Hong Kong what we call in Vienna, not only in terms of incineration, we call it in Vienna the NIMBY, not in my backyard, right? So whenever you try to, so the NIMBY syndrome is something that is globally known to every city, okay? So what you do, the only way you can go actually is to let them know as early as possible, let them participate, in terms of expressing their expectations, expressing whatever it is they fear, let them work out solutions together. This might take a few months, but in the end, it is better you take these few months' time in the beginning than you produce something that is turned down altogether. Because if you produce something that is turned down altogether, then you lose years of working, of hard work, and then nothing arises out of it. And be innovative, be smart. And this is why I took the picture of the incineration that is combined with art, for instance. The idea to combine the incinerator with art by inviting a famous Austrian artist who was architect and painter to design it was also a result of an early form of public consultation. The city knew what people are thinking, it knew what people are fearing, and it has chosen this way to give it a design that would actually correspond to people's needs, let's put it this way. So I think, to be honest, when I'm talking about participation, and citizens' involvement, it's not only about, let's put it this way, democracy or trying to be nice. It's all about seeing to it that you have a possibility to realize projects. Because if you don't go this way, well, I don't have my mobile phone with me, but these little gadgets, they have changed the whole world. And right now, since everybody has his mobile phone and everybody is part of the social media, and everybody can be part of a huge movement within a few hours, you can have hundreds, thousands of people liking or disliking something within a few hours. They can organize themselves. They can be on the roads the next day, okay? So this means that you cannot turn the clock back, and you have to be smart in thinking of ways to let people participate so that they will be also in favor of what you're trying to do.
Wonderful. We have time for one more last question. Is there, okay, one more last question right there.
Hi, my name is David Kwan. I have a question on citizens' involvement, which is one of the highlights in your last slides. How do you elicit ideas from citizens? What regular mechanisms do you use to elicit ideas?
Well, we have introduced participation on very different levels. We right now plan new city parts with participatory processes straight from the beginning. What we do, for instance, is that we will invite people who are living in a district when we plan to have a major construction there, and let them tell us what their needs are. And we will see to it that these needs are part of the planning, of the overall planning, before architects and landscape architects, designers, and you name it, start working. This is also something that I believe is very crucial. It's not that you arrive there and you already have a design, what you want to do. You let people talk first, then you let architects and landscape planners work. Then you present it to them. Whenever we go this way, it works really in a brilliant way. I was actually surprised to see what results there are. Now, one second thing we have launched for more than 10 years now is Local Agenda 21, which means that we have citizens groups in different districts who are active, who will develop their own ideas, and we have also small subsidies from the city so that these ideas can be realized. Not all of them, but some of them. Plus, this means citizens' activation, on a broader level. We have several calls, as I said. We also work pretty much with participatory processes when it comes to refurbishment projects, retrofitting projects, not on the scale of one building, but whole neighborhoods. We're also introducing participatory processes when it comes to designing public spaces. Now, the one public space that I have shown to you is a commercial street in Vienna that was transformed into a pedestrian zone, and it was transformed with participation of more than two. Yes, this is it. It's this green grid that you can see. And this is a picture of the pedestrian zone as it looks like now, this summer. Now, we had more than 2,000 people participating in telling us what the street should look like when it's done. So, I say this is one of the main reasons why it works that well now. So, it's so different what you can do. And when it comes to small businesses, what the city has done was, for one thing, that there's been a whole policy on seeing to it that you have hubs, that you have specific districts in the city where you encourage small businesses, for instance, design businesses, to open up little, startups and shops and ateliers and whatever it is. But at the same time, we also had calls for innovation. Actually, we have several calls for innovation every year. We have a call for technical innovation, so smart solutions from very small startup companies. For instance, what is an example? The ones who have won the call 2 or 3 years ago were the ones who have developed a system where public lighting will go on when people are approaching and go off by itself when people have left a public space, so that you can save, electricity, lighting costs. So, but this is also just one example, right? So you have to work on a multi-level strategy and see to it. No,
Maria, Claudia, thank you so much. I think this is a wonderful start to a dialogue about the smart city and maybe lessons that we can take from other cities about what we can do for Hong Kong in the future. Thank you very much for attending our lunch. I think Maria is here for a few more minutes, so for those who would like to say hello and come up, please do. But thank you again. I hope to see you at another FCC lunch. Thank you very much.